So let's start our interview process
All right.
by telling me your name, since it's not on your screen there. It really is.
Oh, Tim Cavanis.
Tim Cavanaugh. And tell me how long. No, I'm sorry. What is your role? The other interviews that I've done, I truly just did off the top of my head,
Hmm.
which there's value in that probably. This one I actually, is kind of give you some
You chat
questions or something.
GPT'd it, I could tell.
Yeah. Definitely copy and pasted the thing I sent you guys. So, what is your role here at Genesis?
It's a good question. I'm the OG developer, and so uh, I see my role more now as more of a sysadmin guy, whereas, you know, 10 years ago I was the only guy, and so now I sort of step back. I still do a lot of programming and stuff, but I take care of the back end, the stuff that people don't ever think about, and they shouldn't. If they do, then something happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I take care of the things people don't know about, and then I kind of like to focus on defects because I'd still say 60% of the code in Genesis Now is still mine. Original, at least most of the framework still is. So I know when a defect comes across, I've got a pretty good idea of what could be causing it. So I can generally get to it pretty quick and have an idea of what needs to be done to fix it. And so I don't know if that answered all the questions.
That answered it and then some. Um, so, paraphrase, your role here is
Daddy programmer.
when you said OG, what does that mean?
The original gangsta.
Oh, okay. See, I'm not all hip and all that.
Yeah. Well, I'm not either. I probably said it wrong.
I'm not young like you.
But I guess what people will know is when Genesis Now started, I was the only programmer for 5 years, maybe 4, 3, 7. I don't even know. Long enough to where I don't know, and you're having to think about it.
Yeah.
So
right. Roughly 2013 to 2018, I think.
Okay, that's 4 or 5 years, and so yeah.
Okay. Which that was my next question: is how long have you been here? Which 2013, if I remember right.
I think it's 16. I can't remember.
No, it was.
If it was 13, so we're
12 years.
12, somewhere long enough again.
Yeah.
Where
and it is hard to believe because we have people using Genesis Now, some of the early adopters, when it was not much, especially if you look at how robust and huge it is now. 13 years ago, well, we probably have the first year we probably didn't have anybody on it, and then we started adding some people after you had been building it for a year or so, it seems like. So we've got people on it 11 years, I bet. The very first person that went on it is still on it.
Yeah.
And it has come a long way since those days.
Oh, yes.
What does a typical day look like for you in the Genesis development world?
Wow, that's a loaded question you didn't give me to prepare for.
I thought that was
a typical day for me, which is kind of an odd day because I am part-time, which a lot of people don't know, and I've been part-time since the beginning. My first thing, I'll look to see what defects have been put toward me so I can get those done first. And most of the time, those defects I'll get done and push the same day to the production environment. Because that's one of the pros of a system like ours over a legacy program. We're able to push fixes immediately, and people could start doing the things that they need to do immediately if it's a small fix. And then just kind of look and see which tickets in the queue are the most important and start working on them. I get a lot of system emails, and I go through those and see if there's anything wonky or something that needs looking at that, again, people never see, people never know about, and I'll go check and see if that needs fixing or tweaking or whatever.
And meetings, I guess, thrown in there.
Oh yeah, always meetings. I think we're down to like a weekly meeting now. We were meeting every day, and um, there was value in that, but there's value in not meeting every day too. So, you know, just always trying new things to figure out what's the best.
What inspired you to become a developer?
Mm.
What keeps you passionate about being a developer?
I love puzzles. Always love puzzles. I don't remember if you remember I don't know if you remember the old Merlin machines. They look like a handheld phone kind of a thing,
Okay.
but it was all about figuring out patterns. It was a simple LED, uh, just red lights. You know, this is before we had different color LEDs. They were all red. Your watches, your digital watches were all red.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I remember that.
but this little Merlin game was all about figuring out patterns and figuring out the puzzle. And so when I relax, I do puzzles. I do puzzle games. I'd say 80% of the games on my computer are puzzle games, escape room games, stuff like that. I just love. And programming was a natural progression because that's all about figuring out how something works and how to make something work, and same thing.
What do you think are some of the most exciting challenges that you work on?
JenesisNow challenges?
Yeah, I guess.
To me, the biggest challenge was rating. Everything else in our system, for the most part, I'd say most of the things in our system, we control 100% of. The data input, the saving, the output, downloads. Downloads has been around so long, you know, there's at least a pattern there. But rating, dealing with so many different companies who do things differently and trying to concatenate all that information into something legible, usable, easy to use, user-friendly, while not overloading the user with too much information, and leaving room for dealing with other companies in the future who will inevitably do something differently. That's the biggest. And I think we're now in the midst of kind of a minimal overhaul of it anyway.
Yeah.
Just from things changed that just couldn't predict.
And it looks like we're getting close to the end of that overhaul, which is really good.
Yep.
What, or can you share a specific feature or update that you've worked on in the last 13 years that you feel like has had the greatest impact on customers?
Greatest impact. Well, like I say, my situation will be a little different because so much of that code is mine. Okay, so a few of the things, the dashboard, making the dashboard
That's a good one.
to where you can add as many windows as you want and then configure all those windows, even the size of the windows somewhat. We have to be a little constricting on that, but all the different filters that you can do to those dashboard windows to where the dashboard can be truly configurable to how an agency does business and not how we think they should do business. Same with reporting, the same kind of idea. There are ideas for reports that you can run, but then you can configure them and save your own way that you want to look at the data and come back to them. And the reports that we provided are just a base to get started with. Same with the side boxes, the same idea behind the side boxes, and being able to filter those any way you want and configure some of those things, just basically so that any agency can come use JenesisNow and have their own way of using it that's completely different of another agency that uses the same product.
I am Brian Parker, and my role is the senior software developer at Jenesis Software.
Cool. And how long have you been in that role?
I was promoted to senior software developer sometime last year. I don't honestly remember when it happened. About a year.
Okay. And you've been at Genesis how long?
Been at Genesis for 3 years now.
All right. What kind of brought you here? I mean, what's your background and what brought you to us?
Well, to summarize the long story, I started with computers when I was a kid, probably around 12. My parents bought our first home computer, which was a Packard Bell out of the Sears catalog. That's, that'll date me for some people, but I think that's an important part of history, sort of how you grow up with it. Yeah. My first computer didn't come with a modem. We had to add one. So, the internet was still a thing that was developing when I was a kid. I learned about HTML and JavaScript in high school. I had like a little book that taught you how to do it, and so I did some of that. And my high school was pretty nice for the area, so thankfully they had computer labs, and I took computer classes, and I learned how to program in Visual Basic and then in JavaScript. And by that point, I sort of knew that this was what I really enjoyed doing. And so I went for comp sci at college and learned how to program in all sorts of languages and things. And after college, I went through a couple of jobs here and there. And one of my first sort of real jobs programming was at a custom software company. And that really taught me to be sort of like adaptive and to find solutions that fit with what the need was, as opposed to something that I thought was right or something that convention thought was right, because it was much more important to have something that worked, that was useful, than something that looked good on paper.
Right.
And at some point, I applied to Genesis and got the job here. And I remember Derek interviewed me and he asked about PHP, and I had used PHP in my previous job, so I was already pretty comfortable there. And it fit really well.
Yeah, my name is Derek Honeycutt.
And your role here is?
My role here at Jenesis Software is product development manager.
And you've been here at Genesis for how long?
I have been here at Genesis. It's hard to remember. Time flies when you're having fun. 7 years.
Yeah, January 2018, right?
Yeah, I believe it was 2018.
Yep. So 7
Just
years
hit 7
at the time of this recording. So
yep.
Cool. And what got you into the software development business?
Oh wow. Yeah, so I think I started software development when I was 12. At the time of this recording, I'm 39. Prior to that, my dad, he was into computers. Now, he wasn't a software developer, but he was into computers, electronics. So I started there, just electronics, circuit boards, things of that nature, and working on computers. So then I started playing video games on the computer. And around 12 years old, I played a game for a long time. And in my community, we needed things. And my parents weren't going to give me any money to buy it. And none of their parents were. So I thought, okay, let's go look around. And I had to figure out how to make a website where we could figure out tournaments, who beat who and who's ranked the top, and make an anti-cheat patch so that nobody could run cheats and play below the line, things like that. So that around 12 years old sort of kicked that off.
Wow. And what brought you to Genesis?
My path to Genesis is a little unique. I like to say maybe it's just fate or unique design. I remember there was a career opportunity posted hiring for a developer, and at the time reading that post and the career opportunity, it was like it was tailor-made for me. However, it was closed. And I thought, oh no, they filled the role. And I'm like, I don't care, I'm gonna go email this company. So I went and emailed Jenesis Software, and it was actually you. And you and I think we talked, and we hit it off from day one, and the rest is history. And I'm glad that I was able to see a closed job posting at the last minute, and that I still went and emailed the company, which I probably normally wouldn't do, but it just felt like you wrote that for me.
Interesting. That is interesting. And I remember that well. I was on the patio when I got that email that night.
I was walking into Walmart when you called me.
Yeah. So, let's start out with your name and your role and how long you've been here.
Okay, so my name is William Galindo, and I've been here just about over a year. And My role in Genesis is I'm a JenesisNow developer. I work on the AMS, or the agency insurance management system. It's a web application, and I work on defects, which are tickets which the clients give us to either fix some problem that they might have with the web application, or enhancements, which are new features that are requested. And really, my job is just to give them the best UI experience and overall platform experience. So I do my best to cater these solutions that I have to them that fits their needs, whether it's some UI tweak or something more complex. So
Cool.
that's basically my role, and that I work with the team, developers, and we organize in a way that makes it easier for us to solve these problems. Those meetings, handling little meetings that give us more insight to a better solution to something. So I have quite a few things that I'm working on right now, and which is the new Zapier ticket. So,
Well, cool. So, been here over a year doing development. What did you do before that?
So before this, I was working on my PhD. I was a student full time, and I was mainly working on cloud distributed systems, work, research. So it had a lot to do with kind of software, but more like collecting data for research and things like that. Different type of software development, but it was software development.
What's the hardest part of what you do?
I was thinking about this one, and the simple and direct answer is a little bit boring, because when you're a software developer, you're a problem solver. And so the hardest thing sometimes is just to solve problems. Sometimes you have this thing that needs to work and it doesn't really work that way, and you kind of have to find a way to make it work that way, or maybe it should work this way. And when you put everything in it, it doesn't work and you don't know why. And you just have to spend a lot of brain sweat figuring out, why doesn't this work? But eventually, if you get creative and you spend some time, you can always sort of find a solution. And so day to day, that's probably the hardest part of my job. In terms of the senior software development side, the big challenges there are things like making sure that all of our code branches stay organized, and that we can sort of, we've been working towards this process, and we're going to continue moving towards these sort of goals and things, where we can control better our process and sort of our awareness of the changes we're making. Because anytime you have a team, you have the potential for multiple people to work on multiple things at the same time, and keeping track of what's going in, what's not going in, what's ready, what's not ready, that kind of thing can be a challenge. And so we're developing, and we've been developing, and I think it's going in a really nice direction, processes for managing how the code goes in and who makes changes and when those changes get made.
What's the hardest part about your role? What would you like to be different? What's hard? What's not fun?
I'd say the hardest part about my current role is managing the product and the people, and just making sure that everything is where it needs to be. And I'm constantly learning with that, and just how to get better at those things. And I've had great mentors, Lisa Price, some others that have really helped me. So I'd like to do better there, and I'd really like to develop more. I think if I could wave my magic wand, I would develop a lot more than I am today.
What do you think makes that? Why is that challenging? Why is it hard? The way you just described, what's being hard, getting things done and getting things scheduled and get them completed. Why is that? Why do we think that's hard?
I think it may be challenging for me and someone else, maybe it wouldn't be. But let's just say where I am today right now, it can be challenging because I want to develop so much that I'm taking on more than I should because I want to develop. And I think in this role, you can't manage the product and develop at the same time, at least not a lot, and maybe not at all. Time will tell. And I believe it's because I have a lot of meetings. I have to talk to a lot of carriers and vendors and third parties, leadership meetings, team meetings. There's a lot of responsibilities, and it does take up a lot of time that I try to make time for development, and that just may not work.
Yeah. I think one of the things that makes it challenging too, that is hard to fix, is the number of requests for cool ideas that come in.
Yeah.
So we're spending approximately what percentage of our development time on defects versus building cool things?
On average, we're about the industry standard, which would be 80% in enhancements, okay, 20% defects, and that is what we're doing right now. Right. So we're only spending 80% of our time on what we'd say is improving the product, okay, adding things versus fixing it.
So we're 80% of our time is invested in making the product better. We're releasing versions how often?
We release a new version monthly on the first Friday of every month.
Okay. And so my point is, I don't know what the number is. You may or may not know the number, but there are more requests that come in every week, every month, than we could possibly ever complete, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I'd say almost double.
Yeah. And what makes it hard is, I believe 95%, maybe higher, are reasonable requests.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're great ideas. They're great requests.
I know. It would be easier if half of them were crazy. Just don't do those. And then so we have more good ideas coming in than we can possibly get done. And we are in the process of continuing to add to our development team, as we are continuing to add to the entire Genesis team. We do that every year. We've always grown every year in numbers. But even that's a little challenging, because the more you dump into a software program, the more risky it is, the more chances of creating defects. And even if there were no defects created by all those changes, the product is slowly becoming a little overwhelming, potentially clunky, and this person may love this thing, but all these other people don't love that. This person may love this thing over here. All these other people, that's in their way. They don't want that there. So it's tricky.
Correct.
What do you think's been the most challenging thing over the last year? Either a challenging feature, or just in general, what kind of things are hard? What's the hardest part of your job? What do you dread? What do you go home and tell people at night? Man, this happened again today, or I hate this part about work. What would that be?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily call it hard. It's more like it's something that I know can be done. It's just a lot of time that I need to put into understanding all the parts of the system. And I would say what makes it more trickier than hard is just getting the time to really learn an area in the system, as well as understanding how the agents use it and how it's beneficial to them, like how it's to the end clients, right? So I can focus on something that I'm working on and understand it, learn it, and then also understand how this relates to the agents and how it can best benefit them.
I get that. When I first started doing this, almost 30 years ago, one of the things that was commonly said after I started selling the software to people, because I didn't build it to sell it, I bought it for my own agency at the time, and then accidentally started selling it. And then one of the things that was said over the next number of years commonly, and I didn't really put a lot of stock in it, but now I think I do, they would say, the software's good because you were an agent, Eddie, and you solved the problem, you understood how to connect all the dots. And I probably put more value in that now than I even did then. I wasn't as good of a software developer, because I was an insurance agent trying to figure out how to develop software. So I wasn't the best software developer around, but I think there probably was some value in really understanding how the flow of things would be more likely to be helpful to the average insurance agent. So I get that. And also I had an advantage. So that was an advantage I had over somebody like you coming in. The other advantage I had, speaking to what you were just talking about, is when I started developing the system, think about how big it was compared to how big it is when you came into it. When I started, it was a tiny seed.
Yeah.
I wrote the first line of code, and so it was pretty easy. And after I'd been doing it a month or two, it was a little bigger. And after I'd been doing it a year, it was a little bigger. But I was able to, stack these blocks on top of each other slowly. So I didn't have to come in and look at this huge monster. So I would think for you come in and people are trying to show you around the application behind the scenes, how it works. And it's pretty vast, I would think, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. I am very fortunate though, that I have, my team, Brian and Derek, to shadow and to not only kind of just show me the code, but also kind of give scenarios or future examples of like when this would be used or how it would be used by the agents. And just watching them, I learned a lot about the domain experience that you came with into development, and that's what I'm also improving on every time I get a ticket. I not only solve it, but I try to understand, like, okay, what's this accord form for, and when is it used? What's the agent trying to, why does he want this enhancement for? And that helps me better connect the dots when it comes to that missing domain experience that I'm improving on every day.
Do you guys still, are we still doing the thing that we were supposed to do, and I haven't heard about it lately, where everybody in the company once a year is supposed to attend, I think, one demo or something like that,
yeah.
And once a year, one training session, or maybe we go through the training LMS. Are we still doing that? I haven't heard about it lately.
Yeah, well, I did it originally when I came in, and I know we did another training requirement this past year. We haven't done, or I don't believe we've done one for this new year, but I did do the demo and the training.
I just added that back to my notes for a note from my next leadership meeting, because I want to talk about that again. I think every year, man, I think more than once a year, you'd probably benefit from jumping on a demo and jumping on a training session, maybe once a month, once a quarter or something, because I think it would be interesting for the customer to have a developer on the call. That's pretty rare. And I think it would be interesting for either the trainer or the salesperson doing the demo or the trainer doing the training to have a developer on the call, because when a question comes up, that'd be cool for them to say, I don't know, William, do you know the answer to that?
No, definitely. Cool. I remember just that one demo that I did. I learned kind of what the agent was looking for, whether it was something that he had a problem with, maybe he wanted not more automation out of some feature, or what things that they liked. So that really helped me out a lot to kind of understand their perspective on the software.
I think it would be mutually beneficial in both directions. I think you would learn from listening to the agent, and then because you hear the agent say, does it do this or do that, then you would say, tell me more. It doesn't do that, I don't think, but what are you trying to accomplish? And, sometimes what they're trying to accomplish, it will do this, it will accomplish that, but in a different way than what they're asking, So you have to be attuned to that, because if not, there's been a lot of features that we've built over the years that we really didn't need to build because we'd already solved that problem another way. in some other area. We just didn't take the time to truly understand what they're trying to accomplish. What do you think is the most rewarding part of what you do? What makes you the happiest?
Figuring out a difficult problem.
Okay.
And not just figuring out where it's the fastest it can run, uses the least resources, it's the easiest to use. There are several different ways to look at developing, and it changed over the years. A long time ago, it used to be get it all done big, right, and then put it out. And now it's get it done, then make it better, and then make it faster, and then make it more powerful. And you keep cycling through those things because, a certain process may run great with 100 users on the system. But when there's 1,000 or 10,000, as we found out, sometimes that wasn't the fastest way to do things. So finding the solutions to those kinds of problems that you thought you had figured out, and then you ran into a wall, and then you had to figure out what's a better way to do this. Just like when Netflix first released, a lot of buffering, a lot of grainy video, and then high definition video, because they figured out better compression methods.
What's the most rewarding thing? What makes you happy? What's fun?
I've always really liked it when I get to make something and then I get feedback that somebody enjoys this, that this is really what they were looking for, that they're so happy that it's this way now, or that they can do this thing. And I just really love that because, you can work any sort of job where maybe you do some paperwork or you push some buttons or you do whatever, and you feel like your job doesn't really change anything around you. But when you make something and somebody comes back to you and says, I love that thing you made, that feels really good.
Well, that's interesting. I totally agree, by the way. And when you were telling the story earlier about, I loved computers as a kid, and then because some people don't get where you are through that path, some people grow up, go to school and say, what can I do to make the most money, or what's paying good these days? And then but in my experience, people that come along like you've done through passion, and then now end up being the best reward. You didn't say anything about money. Money's the best part. Money's an important part for all of us. But you said it's positive feedback, and really, I guess that means recognition that you were able to, not to recognize you, but to know that you were instrumental in making a difference for somebody.
Yeah, that feeling that I've done something in a day, that feeling that I've gotten a goal completed, or I've put this thing together and it's going to be useful to someone, that means a lot to me.
If you were, in your role, sometimes you're fixing, repairing a defect. Some are larger and some are smaller. And sometimes you're making an enhancement change that's been requested by a customer or internally requested because we think this is a nice change to make, but it's small. And then the third bucket, as I'm kind of looking at this way, is the amazing changes, the cool thing, adding something big. Do you like the variety of all of that? Do you get more satisfaction? Because to fix a little bug, you don't get that affirmation back like you described a minute ago, or even to do a little enhancement that one person asked for, but you do something big that really impacts a lot of people. You ever thought about that, like that? And
honestly, I enjoy the whole spectrum of it. I've often said that I very sort of I'm engineering brained, and so if I walk past something and it's broken, the only thing I can think about is fixing that thing now. And so to me, it's very, I don't know if it's rewarding or fulfilling, but it just feels like the right thing to do to fix something that I know is broken. And so that is sort of a satisfying, resting feeling. So when I get to fix bugs and defects, it makes me feel better because I know that I'm improving the situation, and they often require different thinking than creating something new. Because if you're creating something, especially if it's almost from scratch, if it's a feature or a product or something that didn't really exist before, then you get to define the way that it exists and all of the parameters, and it's a very different thinking style than diving into something that's already there, learning how it works, figuring out how all the pipes are connected, and then finding your leak and figuring out how you need to fix the leak. So they're very different things. And I definitely enjoy both of them. I like having the variety. As a teenager, I worked in a fabrication factory that made coaxial cable. And sometimes you'd be stuck on a job for a week or two, and that was always kind of boring because you just do the same thing over and over and over again. But in some departments, they'd give you different batches of jobs. So I'm going to do this job for half an hour, and then that's done. And then I'm going to move over to a different machine and do another job for half an hour, and then that's done. And that was always much more fun. It's definitely more fun to have a variety and to sort of change up the way that you're thinking as you go through the different processes.
Yeah, makes sense. You said that one of the biggest, the best parts of the job is getting the feedback, positive feedback, or knowing that you've done something that really had a positive impact on someone. Do you get that feedback often, and how?
I feel like I get it fairly often from different places. Sometimes it comes from the support team because they're pretty active within our developer chat, and I think that that's a really good situation for us because there's always that potential for sort of like administration or bureaucracy to end up creating space between the user and the engineer. And that's not a good position to be in. And support is really what bridges that gap for us. Okay. So they're active in our development chat. They say customers love this feature. Customers say this makes lots of sense. Customers say this is annoying. This doesn't work. This is broken. Yeah. And so that's a really great feedback mechanism that sort of keeps us plugged into what's really happening. And then sometimes it comes directly from stakeholders, which would be like you or Lisa, or somebody who said we needed this feature, and then they say, I love the way this works, it looks great now. So it comes from a couple of different places.
Okay, good. Lisa said, by the way, a day or two ago, she said the new rating changes are cool, are slick. I think she said slick.
Awesome.
And that is awesome, man. It's because the goal, and that's normally what drives somebody in software development, and I think it's what will drive exceptional software developers, is that the objective is to blow people away. And 25, 30 years ago, when I started doing developing and started creating Genesis and started showing it to people, and people would say, hey, this is cool. Hey, could it do this? And my answer was, absolutely. You don't even have to ask me what it is. It can do it. I may not be smart enough. I don't know how to do it yet, but it can do it because computers are the closest thing to magic that's ever existed. Mm-hmm. So, and it's so much fun. You know, the support team said the same thing, and the training implementation team said the same thing when I interviewed them. It's far more fun and rewarding to blow people away with service, and in your case with technology, than it is to meet their expectations. Because meeting their expectations is not fun. It's not exciting. It doesn't really make you happy. But when you make somebody's day, when you get an email or we get a chat or something, you made this person's day, that's a big statement, and you like to get more of those. So you work hard to say, I want to keep getting more of those. That feels good. Mm-hmm. What's the most fun part of what you do?
The most fun part about what I do, it's the people. The people that I get to spend my time with. And that's every department. You know, I spend time with every department in some type of meeting, and like recently, you know, we started having our ticket review meeting. We'll joke at times and say, you know, to other team members, like, well, you just tell them the shadow team, you know, the ticket review meeting, but it's someone from every department, and some of those people I may not get to talk to all the time, but at least, you know, once a week I'll get to talk with them and spend time with them, and I've really enjoyed that. and I send out product surveys to our customers, about a third of what we send out, and I love to hear what the customer has to say, good or bad. No, I don't care. I don't, good or bad. I like to hear it both, and it's usually a higher percentage of positive, and that's probably one of the funner parts of what I do.
What's the most rewarding or best thing about your job? And the way I like to ask that, like I did a minute ago, if you're talking to friends and family and you say, here's what I like about my job, well, what would that be?
Well, I would definitely say that it's not the same thing every day. It's always something new, and it's solving problems, which that's just something that I get excited for. Like figuring out why this is happening, or just coming up with a better enhancement. Like that's exciting in itself, whether it's something small like a UI tweak, or being able to modify the buttons a certain way, or it's exciting because it doesn't get boring. It's something that you can kind of see it once it's out in production. That you did that's out there, they're using it, they like it, you get feedback, responses, you have a lot more say or impact on the software, for sure. So I definitely enjoy that aspect.
How do you think we're better as a company or better as a development team, either way you want to look at it? You can answer either or both of those questions. How are we better now than we were 7 years ago when you came here?
Oh goodness, I think the obvious is growth. Having more people, stronger people, knowledge of the system, more people in all departments with more knowledge in all things. I think we've tried things that have been successful, and obviously we have tried things that have failed, and we've learned from it, and we've learned lessons that make us stronger, make us do something better. And I think just continuing to try different things is what's continuously made us better, and that's what's going to keep making us better.
Any thoughts about, if you could wave your magic wand, that something you'd like to see change or be different, or how could the future be better for the company, for your department, for you, for our customers? And that may not come easy to you. That's maybe a hard question, but anything you see about some dreams or things that might be different in the future?
Well, like you said, yeah, it could definitely be a hard question to kind of give a very specific answer to, but I feel overall, a lot of the industry is utilizing, AI, large language models, automation, things that help in various ways. And I definitely see JenesisNow heading in that direction, with Derek implementing some new features coming out. If I could wave my magic wand, I would definitely see a lot more things that we're having to kind of, use the tools that we have right now to make work. Maybe utilizing a new technology can make that smoother, make it better for the user. Whether it's recommending things to type in a message for them or something. There's lots of different ways, definitely, for sure.
I agree. I know you just, and we'll talk about that after this meeting, maybe for a few minutes, is the Zapier integration. That's cool. People have been asking for that for a while. And I think your name might be on, I think it was at one point, I don't know if it still is or not, on the ticket that's coming up pretty soon for like the AI integration, like with ChatGPT. Does that ring a bell?
Oh yeah.
Is that your ticket, or do you know?
I'm not sure. I haven't checked on it yet, but I would go with Derek and figure out if it's on there. I've been kind of just focused on Zapier for the time being.
Yeah. I know you'll be glad when that one's kind of done. And I think it's about done. But that'll be cool too, things like that, because even with just something as simple as, if you're in JenesisNow and maybe you're composing an email to send out for an automation or to a customer, to have the AI, maybe you're saying, I want to write this email to a customer to ask them to switch from monthly invoice to credit card or ACH draft or something. I'm just making that up, and it would write the letter for you, or write an email to my customer saying, we also sell life insurance and what are some cool things, and it would help you create that content. So I think that integration will be somewhat easy. Famous last words. But I think it would have a lot of impact, and I think it would be really cool. I've even thought, if there's ever a point, the JenesisNow, started out Genesis, and then we created JenesisNow, and then after JenesisNow was starting to get some traction, we kind of mostly internally named the other product Genesis Classic, just to kind of distinguish, So ever since you've been here, you've probably heard Genesis Classic, and then Agency Advantage and JenesisNow. But I've almost comically thought, I don't know if we'd ever do this or not, but if there's ever a time, especially if there's a major UI change or something with JenesisNow, or something significant, that it's almost like a real big upgrade, not just a normal version update, that if we ever decide to change the name of it, you could do something kind of be cool for Genesis Agency Intelligence. So it'd be GenesisAI.com. That'd be kind of cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
The AI could mean agency intelligence, not artificial intelligence. But,
yeah.
Or it could mean artificial intelligence.
That's clever. It's a clever name.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that.
I don't know if I'll ever do anything like that or not. What kind of things have changed in 13 years? I mean, what comes to mind? Is there anything that comes to mind that, how was it then and how is it now? I know you could probably have a lot of things that have changed.
Yeah.
But what do you think some of the big things have changed? One or two?
Well,
how's it different now?
Part of that is now we've got 4 developers versus 1. And I'll say that's something I've had to learn to play well with others. To play well with others. I've always been pretty decent about taking advice on different ways to do things, and not always thinking my way is better, but going, oh, well, let me go see what you're talking about. And so the product has definitely gotten better because we've got some developers now that do things a little bit differently and think differently. So there's been some things that some of them have found in some of the frameworks we use that I didn't know about, that I used one yesterday. I had to do a ticket, and I'm like, man, if I do it this way, we're going to have to remember to update this once this changes, when that changes. There's got to be a better way. I wonder if there's this. I went looking in the product. Brian had used it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, man, that solves all the problems I had thought of we would have possibly in the future, and makes it to where there will be no problems with expansion of that particular table. So it's like, okay, that's cool. So
two heads are better than one.
Oh yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to programming, because we all think differently, and sometimes you don't think of the best way the first time, and somebody else will, even if they don't give the right answer, they'll get you jogging down the right road toward the right answer. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for your time. I wish we could go longer.
No problem.
I hate our time is up. I wish we had more time. I think I scheduled these too short, and I apologize.
That's okay.
I thought I'd done the others 20 minutes, but it feels like the 20 minutes is gone faster here.
Well, we can blame Tim for that. He ate some of our time.
He did. And then you and I talked about sleeping and sleeping patterns and getting good nights.
When we're just such, charismatic, affable guys that, the time flies, and
That's right. Cool. Well, thank you for your time. Enjoyed it. Wish we got to talk more. Well, I don't have anything else. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, I appreciate you sitting down with me and having this chat with me, and it's enjoyable.
Well, I don't have anything else. I appreciate your time. I've enjoyed it, and we'll do this again when we get better at this.
Definitely.
All right, cool.